What's up, YKTR Sports? Welcome back to the show and go. Monday morning, bosses in the building, and my throat's fucked. Plenty of footy to chew through, so we're not going to muck around. New South Wales have named their squad. Queensland doing what Queensland do and playing a bit of wait and see. For their. Why do they get to name it second? Is there a reason?
I think historically in the past, the New South Wales sides were so dominant that they used to name the Queensland as a reaction to who they picked. That's what I heard back in the day.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's true
have no idea. I was talking to Luke about it because I was like, that is weird, but it's not really.
Someone will know in the comments. Someone in the comments right down below, because we've got a smart fan base here. They know everything.
Yeah, the history of the game. Yeah, it's not an advantage. Like Queensland know who they're going to pick. They're not like, oh, they got Cam Murray on an edge, we're going to go a different direction. So, but it is a bit weird. But obviously, there were no sort of massive shocks. But your immediate reaction when you have a look at that squad and you see guys like Turbo and Latrell in the centres.
Yeah, that backline's so scary. It's not even funny. But my initial reaction was pumped for these Panther boys to get a start. You look at Jerome and Nathan Cleary, and they sort of come through all together. We wrote an article probably about 6 months, maybe this year, where Jerome Luai was like the perfect bullet for, like Nathan Cleary's a gun, and Jerome Luai was like the perfect bullet for him. So Nathan Cleary is probably the best player in the game right now, and Jerome's that perfect complement for him. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play, but there's enough Penrith boys in and around that. That was my first reaction. Obviously, you think about debuts, they're usually the feel-good stories of those. So Isaiah Yeo was another one. I come through with him. Always been a great kid, love football. So those are the types of ones that are super exciting for me.
He's sort of like, he hasn't come out of nowhere, but Isaiah Yeo in the last sort of 18 months has gone from like a solid first grader to, one of the first guys that, like Freddie announced that he was in the squad live on Sunday Footy Show, which is pretty cool as well. He's shopping with his with his family, and but he just seems like such a good guy anyway.
We don't reward defensive as like critics from the outside of the game. So when he first come into first grade, he debuted at centre against Joey Leilua, and Joey Leilua was obviously one of the toughest matchups and locked him up on debut. So that was at Penrith as well. So I don't think we reward that type of stuff as fans and critics of the game, but he's always been defensively sound. I just think with that new system they play with, Penrith really suits him to a T. He's big. He's really strong through the legs. So he'll get contact and he'll start to drive his legs late. Now he's just added a pass. Adding a pass to your game, makes you 10%, 20% better.
You look at all the best sides in the game right now. It's obviously Penrith. You look at Manly, and you look at the Roosters, and all three of those sides, and obviously Souths as well, all four of those sides use that sort of ball-playing lock as almost a first receiver. So Trbojevic, Radley, Yeo, and obviously Cam Murray. 3 out of those 4 in the squad. Radley probably would be there if he wasn't suspended, which we'll get in, it's a whole nother fucking kettle of fish, that thing. But Isaiah Yeo being able to be that link, whereas it sort of, and you as a former half would be able to say, like, not having to be the first receiver every single time, I can imagine would take a shitload of weight off your shoulders. You can organise your shape without that first point of contact and having to sum it up. Is that fair?
Yeah, it pushes everyone just a little bit wider, so it's easy to throw shape on the certain people that you're used to getting to. But in terms of that ball playing 13, it's almost a must-have now. Like that, I always reference this conversation I had with Trent Robinson one time, and your spine conceives of 5 players right now. So obviously your 4 normal, and then your 13 is the other one, and 4 out of your 5 have to be out of a pass, and your 13 is included in that. And you find, and ideally you want all 5 that can pass. But say if you got like a like Penrith, what's fullback? Dylan Edwards, where he's not a noted passer, but your other 4, it can cover up the base of that. So Uppy can pass, Nathan can pass, Isaiah Yeo can pass.
And they go to another level when Crichton goes back there who can pass.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So, and once all 5 of those spines can pass, you're in for a good shot. So you need 4 out of your 5. Once one of them goes down, you get caught pretty quickly.
It's funny how Melbourne sort of, the lock went from being like your Dallas Johnson, Michael Luck sort of players. Melbourne then just started rolling with an extra basically prop in 13, and now it's swinging back the other way into a ball player. But like the good sides recognise it straight away, and if you look down the ladder at the team sort of hovering, even like Para do that with Nathan Brown, they're right up there as well.
Yep.
The sides that are struggling at the moment, you would probably look across their squads and say they don't have that. So it's a bit of an interesting position. You're kind of not the first one you think about.
It changes a lot. So, like you said, Dallas Johnson, Michael Lark, they were sort of the workhorses.
Almost like a dying breed.
Yeah, knock up 55, 60 tackles a game. I remember Michael Lark done like close to 70 or over 70 in a Melbourne game in the wet one time. So, it's one of those positions that evolve and it'll probably evolve back. But if you look before those types of players, they're like Freddie Fittlers. They were sort of the big ball playing. Scotty Hill was a gun as well. So, if you want to look to the future, look to the past. And usually, because the game is speeding back up, when the game was strictly about defense, those were the perfect guys for the third in position. Right. Now it's going back to attack. You need someone who can attack in that format.
That was when we all used to get excited when Gal would run for like 150 metres. We'd be like, fuck, what a gun.
Yeah.
now Toto's smacking out 300. Just on Toto before we move off the Panthers, he's probably one of the coolest storylines out of all of this because he's just probably the most lovable guy in rugby league at the moment. I saw a couple of nice quotes from Jerome Luai about like coming through that sort of Mount Druitt area together, and he's like, I wouldn't want to debut alongside anyone else. And the criticism, like a little bit of criticism every time a squad like this gets announced, how you could criticise a squad, I don't know, but people saying they're a bit small. Fuck, when you got a little guy on the wing like that can knock out 300 metres plus, you're probably all right in the forward back.
Yeah, and like sometimes a lot of people focus on a single individual, but when you see a winger, you see the back three and you see the centres as well. So you got Tommy Turbo and Latrell in there. They
Pretty
can
big
all
bodies.
Yeah, they can all carry. So sometimes it's and they're kind of tall and fast and stuff like that. That's cool, but then it's like sort of like in cricket, how you switch up to a slow ball sometimes. So when you've just gone from tackling someone high and then someone nuggety's coming out and running it over you, and then Tedesco's like bouncing around, you have to mix up your different tackling styles, which is really like people underestimate that, where they always say you don't want the same size forward packs in your pack because I don't know, you just kind of get used to the rhythm of tackling someone the same size. But when you have to tackle someone high, then you got to tackle someone with an offload that bounces back. Then you got to tackle a little nugget. It gets like confusing, especially when you're tired.
Yeah.
You got Origin, you got fatigue sitting in. You've got these new laws in and around the head. So man, different body variations and backs and forwards is super important.
He's so nuggety, man. He looks like a nightmare. I always go back to what Normie was saying when he's like, I was like, bro, how hard is that guy to tackle? And Normie's just like, bro, I was getting dragged. His legs just stopped pumping. I'm like, go down.
Yeah. That's
cool. He just looks exhausting, man.
Cool story. Like all those little, when guys come out from rough areas and it gives, like there's some 14-year-old Samoan kid that probably...
And they're like proper about the area. Like that's what's the coolest thing about it, you know? Like guys like Joseph Manu and like yourself, like guys from small towns like that's cool. But when they like proper jump on the scene and rep the area like they do, it just elevates that again.
There's probably a 14-year-old Samoan kid that's on the brink of jumping in a gang but good at football that's probably looking at Brian To'o right now and going, fuck, I might go this way. So those are the other storylines that people don't really talk about.
Yeah. Just before we move off New South Wales, obviously the biggest contention was the halves. We've touched on Luai. The back row, obviously Frizzell limped off last week, so Tarek Sims gets in there. I haven't seen anything confirming whether he would have indefinitely been out, but I think it basically came down to a super fit Tarek Sims. You probably give the nod to over a potentially hampered Frizzell. What do you make of that selection?
Yeah, just I'd rather shine light on people that made it and then not try and drag down the ones that didn't, or like no one can deny Tarek Sims needs to be there. You know what I mean? But Frizzell could do a job there as well. So I know they're both good mates and they've come through the Dragons system together. So I'm sure they'll both be happy for each other. I don't want to put negative light on anyone. Yeah. So I think Tarek Sims deserves to be there. His charge down efforts, his effort every game. He's probably the one guy in the Dragons when you look across their forward pack, they're like, fuck, I wouldn't run at him.
Yeah, you go the other way.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So that sort of intimidation factor is quite important. Do love Tyson Frizzell's body shape. We talked about body shape before and running styles. He's got a lot of power in his base and in his ass and he can run over people. But, man, let's just shine light on let's just congratulate the guys that have made it and not the ones who haven't.
And he's going to, I would assume, at some point in the series, Frizzell's going to feature anyway. Like, the side's going to change with not just with injury, form, but obviously with all the yellow cards, reports and suspensions. There's going to be a lot of bodies that come in and out of that squad, and I'd be shocked if Frizzell doesn't get back in there. So
yeah, look at the Maroons now. They've got like 6 or 7 different options that they can have off the back of injuries and suspensions. So,
Jack Wighton in the 14?
Yep, good decision.
Super versatile.
Versatile, can cover the whole back line from 7 to 1 if he had to. But like you said, you got Tommy Turbo there, you got Latrell. If Tedesco gets another head knock, hopefully he doesn't. You got plenty of options everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think Wighton deserves to be there. Is he reigning Dally M?
Dally M, he won it last year. Yeah.
He's just on the bad side at the moment.
Yeah.
And a side with a lot of drama around it. So that's probably the consequence of it. You want to be in form when you're playing in Origin. I'm not saying he's out of form, but Jerome's just too good to turn down right now.
Yeah, I think he's the perfect 14. Just for the way the game's going at the moment, you have a look across the game in the last couple of weeks and a lot of outside backs either going off suspended, concussed, whatever it is. He can fill a job, like you said, 1 to fucking prop as far as I'm concerned. Just throw him in the middle. He can crack guys.
I was just thinking that he could almost play every position.
Play on an edge, absolutely. He's a fucking weapon. You wouldn't want to run at him.
And you never question Wighton's effort or intent.
Ever.
Like he's always going to run and take you on. And He can put a shot on, so he's perfect for Origin.
Yeah, love him. Maroons obviously expected to get named today. Are we sort of expecting any curly ones here, or Maroons kind of pick themselves, don't they?
Yeah, they've kind of like named the 20-man squad that we've had a look at as well. Yeah. So we'll just wait till the team gets officially announced, and we can sort of roll off the back of that.
Yeah. More Origin content coming. YKTR gang, we were obviously pre all this COVID stuff. We were having, well, I know you were having a look at going to Origin 1 with the squad. That's obviously still all up in the air, but you got any sort of updates around what that might look like if it goes ahead? Or
yeah, so me and Scope we're getting paid to go down to an Origin event down there just to film it and stuff, and obviously I was going to drag you boys along as well, but with all the stuff in Melbourne probably won't happen. I don't know if it goes to Townsville. I'm not too sure if we'll do it. Yeah, because we're sort of getting paid to go down. So, but definitely something we'll look into in the future, whether it's this series or next series. Not against it. I
think off the back of the whole Magic Round stuff, we realise that there is a lane for us to do that sort of stuff. It's just got to be the right timing, and we can't sort of react and go to a trip like up to Townsville.
I'm hungover as fuck right now, so I'm like, getting on the piss list doesn't sound like a good idea. Yeah. If I was bouncing about, it'd definitely be sweet.
Big weekend for the skip. Obviously, let's jump just quickly end on a bit of NRL. Big sort of, I suppose, performers over the weekend was obviously Panthers, Melbourne, and Souths all put on the clinic.
Enjoyed the Souths game.
Yeah, start with that. Then obviously that was, I picked Para, but Scope sort of mentioned he felt like this was going to be sort of like Latrell came back last week, probably a bit underdone after his little suspension. When they're all together and they're all fit and firing, you kind of forget how good Souths are a little bit.
Yep.
What'd you make of that game?
Yeah, just enjoyed it. Like, there's not too many teams that could bounce back after getting pumped 50.
Back to back,
and just put on a show like that. And that's what I said about them last week, and what I said about Wayne Bennett. I don't think Wayne Bennett gives a fuck about round 10. I think he starts carrying around like round 24, round 25. All these wins matter. I looked at the table today. The Dragons are still sitting at 8th.
It's weird, eh?
Yeah, like this is how weird the comp is this year. Like the teams are so good, but that little middle part where Dragons haven't won a game in a minute and they're still sitting in the top 8.
You look at I reckon
fucking weird.
Dragons, Sharks, Titans, Warriors, and Tigers.
They're all the same team.
They're the same team.
Yeah, fucking hope they are.
They're the same team, and I have no idea any given week. It's been a punter's nightmare. If you follow the Oracle, you'll know that it's a fucking punter's nightmare.
Like when you go to the footy, just flip the coin, and that's the chances you're going to get with the boys.
Yeah. One side who you don't have to flip a coin because they win no matter who the fuck is out is Melbourne. Missing all their stars. Cheese goes out there and puts on a clinic and they get it done. So I kind of pose this question to you. Is Melbourne, we know the system. Melbourne has the best system in the game. We're not fucking dropping knowledge here. But are they the deepest squad in the game? When you have a look across, they miss Harry Grant, no dramas. They miss Money, no dramas. Cooper Johns comes in and does a job for them. Felice Kafusi goes off. They bring on a bunch of no-name back rowers, with respect to the no-name back rowers, who come on and put on clinics. They've got some, what's his name? Is it Lewis, the back rower that comes on with a 6 on his jumper and puts one through for the Fox? I mean, they just, I don't know who these guys are, but they seem to pull these Brian Norrie type guys out of nowhere and they just put on clinics, man.
Man, I think they're the best at turning someone who's probably like a cup player into like a really good first grader. Yeah. And you really find they struggle once they leave the Melbourne system. Like off the top of my head, I can only really think of like Gareth Widdop, who's really gone on, left the system and
it's probably a good
made a massive difference. Where
Adam Blair went on and had an amazing career, but
he wasn't as good as he was. Yeah, he was elite in Melbourne.
Proctor, same sort of thing.
Yeah, so you've seen a lot of them, like they'll go into the Melbourne system, start to play Origin, kill it there, get their big money and leave, and their kind of career goes down a little bit. And obviously there's going to be some other guys out there who have killed it, but Gareth Widdop off the top of my head is a really good one. But I think they're the best at doing that. In terms of depth, I still think Penrith are the team. And the best thing I love about Penrith is they develop a lot of their players as well, where Melbourne don't have the facilities or probably the junior nursery to pick from, like 50,000 kids, obviously exaggerated number, but that many talented kids where they will have to go to Queensland and pluck these guys from Q Cup and still turn them into genuine first graders. That's a skill set in itself, but then sort of balance that with the superstars that they have. That's where the beauty of Melbourne come into it. But in terms of depth, it's still Penrith.
Yeah, I probably tend to agree. I'm always blown away by. It seems like every time team lists get named on a Tuesday, you have a guys down the Melbourne side. There's probably 3 or 4 guys where you go, who the fuck is that? And then they go out there and put on a clinic.
Jamie's back in like 2010 when it was like Dragons versus Melbourne. That was always like the big sort of games. Wayne Bennett done this exercise with the teams one time, and he compared like the 1 versus 1, the 2 versus 2, 3. Like they had a team list on, and he goes, to be honest, like out of all these players, I'd probably pick like Billy Slater,
Cameron Cooper
over you guys. But everyone else, I'd rather have the guys that are in here. But why are these guys so much better than us? And then Darius Boy come out and put a clinic on because Uncle Wayne was picking Billy Slater over him.
Fuck, like, he was good, Darius Boyd.
and that's kind of like we talked about the Penrith side right now. Those are the really good sides, and I feel like to win the comp, you need your younger players to be playing above what their pay packet's worth.
Yeah.
So what was Valentine and Jack Bird getting paid when Cronulla won? Like they were unders for what they were performing. So you do need those types of things to happen. But yeah, man, crazy.
Let's just finish then on Penrith because I need to give myself a pat on the back. We're officially in terms of games played, halfway through. The boys are still undefeated. If they get through this Origin period, do you see them dropping a game? Are you still going to say yes based on odds? Based on the fact that it's a long season?
Yeah, they'll drop. I just think they'll drop one. I don't know to who, but I think they might have a bit of Origin fatigue.
Yeah,
you got to think Nathan, Jerome, they're going to be getting like emotionally prepared for these types of games.
Both of them being picked for Origin does throw a bit of a curveball into the whole thing.
So
and Toto as well, and Liam Martin and Yo, they're missing.
I don't think so, man. I think they just they'll win, but they just won't win as convincingly. Maybe if they get it like 4 behind 14-0, that might get them in trouble. But I think Matt Burton's class enough to sort of. Like, you think Nathan Cleary's kicking game is so elite, so once he leaves, you're like, shit, we've got no one, but Matt Burton can kick just as well as him.
Tyrone May's got a great short kicking game as well.
Yeah, so Tyrone May's a perfect balance of like the six. Like, he's such a diverse player as well. But, like, Matt Burton wouldn't have the arsenal that a Reynolds or Nathan Cleary has, like the types of bombs they can put up, the floaters, the torpedoes, all that sort of shit. But in terms of distance and placing it on the spot every single time, he probably could kick further than both of them. I think so.
He's got like that rugby union boot, full spirals off the boot. Yeah,
and like he's been playing the game in the centres, so he'll be used to the speed right now. He'll be seeing.
That's what I was about to say to you. Like, what sort of benefit is him having now? He's played so much first grade before he's going to be given we saw him obviously coming in that Melbourne game in the halves and he was sweet, but I can only imagine that having an additional 10 games in the fucking centres is only going to help him, right? Yeah. Confidence wise.
So like you learn the game at centre, like getting on the back of kick chasers. So you might be under the pump and see when Nathan kicks a ball and he's telling you to chase, it might be a tackle 3 or 4. Those are the lessons he might be learning from that. So he might be chasing Nathan's click and get up and make the first tackle, and then maybe 2 sets later they score. So he might see stuff like that from playing out there. Sort of how Nathan gets into the line. He's a smart footballer, Matt. So, man, this will be a big education for him for next year. This will be his team for the next couple of weeks. He'll be running it. Won't have as many superstars. That's probably what he can relate to the Bulldogs as well. So, man, it's going to be an interesting period for him.
That's a good point. I think we'll leave it there. I'm still going to say undefeated season, but I'm very aware that it's only halfway through and we've got the Origin period to get through. But we get through here, we'll be away. Bye, bro. Cheers.
Later.